For me, being British, Christmas isn't quite Christmas without there being some sweet, spicy pastries. This year, I've decided to make two pastries based on recipes that were written in England at the end of the 13th, beginning of the 14th century. The first of these, Cuskynoles, reminds me somewhat of that great British Christmas tradition, the mince pie. Indeed, Cuskynoles was served as a Yuletide treat back in the 13th and 14th centuries. Let me show you how I make my gluten-free, modern medieval versions, and I'll tell you more. First, I make the pastry dough, or paste, as the medievals called it. I'm only making a small batch of 8 Cuskynoles. They're far too Moorish for me to make more, but you can easily double the recipe if you want more. I sieve into a bowl 125 grams, or 1 US cup, of gluten-free bread flour, which contains xanthan gum to help with binding the dough, along with a pinch of salt. Once sieved, I then add 25 grams of castor or superfine sugar. Now, the medieval recipes for Cuskynoles, the first written in Anglo-Norman French, the second a translation of this into Middle English, both instruct us to make the dough with eggs. Fais des en passe des œufs. Make a dough from eggs, says the French text. Make a paste tempered with iron. Make a dough tempered with eggs, says the English text. So I then beat 1 large egg and 1 egg yolk, and stir this into the flour with a fork. And then gradually bring the dough lumps together with my hand. If you find the mixture a little dry, just add a dash of water. I then turn the dough onto a well-floured working surface and gently knead it for no more than 1 minute until it forms a soft dough. If you do decide to use wheat flour, you can use the same quantities of flour and eggs, but you will find the dough needs kneading for longer, about 3 minutes. I leave my dough to rest in the fridge for 15 minutes and get on with making the fruity filling. I take 3 medjool dates, stone them and cut them up, putting them into my whizzer, my non-technical term for a mini blender. I cut up 2 plump semi-dried figs after removing the stems and add these too. Going in also are 40 grams, 1/3 of a US cup, of whole blanched almonds, and 40 grams, 1/4 of a US cup, of raisins. Then I take half a small pear, peel it and cut it up. I'm using a firm commis pear. And 1/4 of a large or half a small dessert apple, which I also peel and cut up. Now these are all in the whizzer, it's time to whiz them. You don't want to turn the mixture into a pulp. Make sure you still have some pieces of almond visible. Then I tip this into a bowl and add my spices. I've chosen cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon, and the same amount of mace. The scent is heavenly. Don't overdo it on the spices, as they can easily overpower the fruitiness that you want to enhance rather than mask. Now it's time to roll out the dough. I aim for a roughly rectangular shape. I roll it out thinly, though not as thin as if I were making pasta. I trim it into a neater rectangle and measure out smaller oblongs within. Now both the Anglo-Norman and Middle English recipes explain that each oblong should measure 3 fingers in width and a palm and a half in length. As I'm going for 8 Cuskynoles, I need 12 fingers in width and 3 palms in length in total. Obviously, hands do differ considerably in their dimensions, so aim for around 30 centimeters, 12 inches, by 25 centimeters, 10 inches. But there's no need to be too pedantic about it. After cutting up my 8 oblongs, I brush with beaten egg over 1/2 of each oblong. The medieval recipes suggest lard or grease is used, but egg is a much better sealant of pastry dough, which is why this is being done. Then I spoon a teaspoon of the fruity filling onto the side that's been brushed and press it down a little. Then it's time to fold. And this is the point where I invoke a medieval Christmas tradition. In the English translation, though not in the Anglo-Norman original, the cook tells us, "And so then vel together o the Yule manner," and then fold together in the Yuletide manner. In all honesty, it's not clear what this means, though some may guess that it has something to do with the shape of each pastry being like a manger. The text, trying very hard to be helpful, adds the words, "as this figure is amad," as this diagram or figure shows. Yes, in the actual manuscript there is a drawing of a diagram, an oblong divided into 15 smaller oblongs, 5 across, 3 down, with a dot in the centre of each. Not exactly helpful. But since the Yuletide manner has been invoked, I think it's time for more of the medieval tune turned Christmas carol. It's certainly better than me singing, trust me. Once these are all folded, I then chill them for at least 15 minutes. After this, I put a pan of water on and bring to a rapid boil. I put my griddle on a medium heat, and I also put my oven on, 180 degrees fan oven, that's 200 for non-fan, or 400 Fahrenheit. Boil the pastries until they float, about 1 to 1.5 minutes. Then drain and dry on paper towels. Now the traditional way to cook these, according to the medieval recipes, is to boil them first and then griddle them. Now I'm going to do that with half of them, but the other half I'm going to boil then oven bake them. I actually think they cook more evenly this way. As you see, the griddle method requires me to press the edges down in order to cook them. Turn the Cuskynoles to make sure they're cooked on both sides. They do puff up a little, as you see. All in all, whether using the griddle or the oven, they take about 10 minutes to cook. And once they're cooled a little, it's only right and Christmassy to dredge them with the modern powdery magic of icing sugar.